So Godzilla King of the Monsters looks pretty good, right? I mean, it looks a lot better than the last one, not just in the sense that they've remembered to put Godzilla in their Godzilla movie this time. Now, movie studio embargo rules being what they are, I'm not 100% sure if I'm allowed to say if I saw this movie or not yet, or what I thought about it if I did, which is probably good, because, just going by these clips, it looks like maybe the kind of Godzilla movie I might hypothetically have been waiting to see my entire life, and again, hypothetically, perhaps might have had trouble expressing my thoughts about in words rather than like excited animal sounds. Either way, when and or if I see or can say I saw that movie, I'm sure we'll post a review of it. Anyway, I didn't really dislike the last Godzilla movie so much as wish that it would have remembered to have more fun with its premise. No, not every movie needs to be a self-referential gag fest like Deadpool, or a family-friendly romp like Shazam, or earnest, colorful charm machines like the Marvel, Pixar, Lego movies, etc. But, movies about 300 to 400 foot tall radioactive fire-breathing dinosaurs who are historically friends with giant butterflies, fight monkeys, and sometimes do whatever this was. Should maybe try to smile a little bit. It's not that the 2014 movie wasn't an admirable effort at what it was going for, which is to say a very big, grim spotlight on the idea of the reimagined Godzilla and the Mutos as metaphors for apocalyptic climate change and other large-scale natural disasters and our ability or lack thereof to properly respond to the same. I mean, granted, so was Pacific Rim, and that had a good time with it. It just seemed to get stuck on where it was meant to go with that metaphor once it had pointed out, like the gigantic, unsubtle neon sign that it was. King of the Monsters also seems to have a point to make, though it seems to have also come with more actually going on, and also seems to kind of be maybe the same point from Avengers Infinity War.
Too many mouths, not enough to go around. And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
The mass extinction we feared has already begun, and we are the cause. The Earth unleashed a fever to fight this infection. Its original and rightful rulers, the Titans.
Boy, awful lot of movies from studios owned by big corporations seem to be doing storylines where characters who propose really big, ambitious, world-changing solutions to impending ecological disaster turn out to be dangerous, inhuman psychopaths whose plans would kill billions of people, huh? That's something. In any case, the thing with Godzilla is, it's actually really easy to get stuck in the realm of metaphor with this character and his attendant franchise, despite how, well, silly most of it seems, and frankly, most of the movies are. One of the things many a devout growing film geek first learns in their transition from adorable, nerdy child who watches a lot of weird movies to obnoxiously pretentious teenager who never shuts up about them is that, actually, it's not childish to still like Godzilla movies at all, because in fact the original Japanese uncut version, Gojira, was a dark and serious anti-nuclear parable that presented the titular monster as a metaphor for the atomic devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that is true. The original Gojira is an exceptionally dark and somber science fiction film with an unmistakably tragic undertone that draws explicit visual parallels to the imagery of post-nuke Japan in depicting the fallout from and resilience in the face of the monster's rampage. However, it's equally true that Gojira wasn't conceived as some kind of abstract art house piece disguised as a monster movie or subversive political statement primarily. Toho was a profit-driven genre studio, and they wanted to put out a big special effects monster film in the same vein as Beast of a Thousand Fathoms, but with an even more massive destructive monster informed by nuclear age fears and dragon imagery, and drawing on their own country's very recent real-world experience with seeing mass devastation previously unimagined in scale inflicted by forces beyond comprehension was an obvious place to go creatively. Even the film's darkly anti-heroic approach to the problem, in which a scientist develops a weapon arguably worse than Godzilla itself to destroy it and chooses to die along with the weapon in order to ensure that it can never be used again, is a fairly standard milieu for the downbeat Showa-era Japanese morality play. For proof of that, one need only look at the literal rest of the franchise after that, which pivoted immediately from more somber post-war metaphor to, hey, people like this Godzilla guy, so let's bring him back and maybe make more monsters for him to wrestle. First as a villain, then as a morally neutral big-scale nuisance, and finally, by the time the 70s had rolled around, to the hero of the series. Although according to at least one interpretation popular among many fans, in this context, the original metaphor for Godzilla as a stand-in not just of the American atomic bombing but the American military machine more broadly never actually goes away. It simply evolves to fit Japan's changing relationship to the same across the latter 20th century, i.e. while the first film, Godzilla is a terrifying destructive force that rains nuclear fire on Japan's cities, as the series goes on, Godzilla/America is still a big, lumbering, dangerous brute lurking out in the ocean that they don't really like, but now there's other giant nuclear monsters who are scarier and he tends to fight them off, so hey, I guess we've just gotta put up with him now. So it's not that surprising that even the end of the Cold War didn't end the idea of Godzilla as metaphor. The rebooted Heisei-era Godzilla films of the 80s and 90s jettisoned the already loose continuity of the original franchise save for the first film, and 1991's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah featured a politically charged Terminator-inspired time travel story that had Godzilla as a normal, still-living dinosaur in World War II who saves Japanese soldiers on an island from American soldiers and is later mutated into his kaiju self by atomic testing. When he attacks modern Tokyo, he singles out businesses owned by the now elderly and wealthy men he'd once saved, and it's implied by the characters that Godzilla is a punishment for them having invested their rescued lives more in industrial capitalism than in bettering the world. King Ghidorah in this one is also created by evil time-traveling American, Russian, and Chinese agents who are trying to prevent Japan from becoming an economic economic superpower in the future. Yeah, this one's weird. Quixotic author Shuseiki Kaneko, best known for revitalizing the Gamera series in the 90s, put his signature kaiju as Earth Spirit spin on the franchise with the one-off standalone feature Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monster All-Out Attack. In this version, not only are Ghidorah, Mothra, and fan-favorite guest star Baragon the heroes, while Godzilla is the full-blown bad guy, his origins go from radioactive to outright demonic. This Godzilla was a conglomeration of the souls of the victims of Japanese war atrocities in the Pacific conflict, and he's come to punish the nation for increasingly whitewashing that aspect of its history. Yeah, Japanese early 2000s sci-fi got pretty wild. More recently, Toho let Neon Genesis Evangelion creator Hideki Anno, yes, really him, take a crack at the character in Godzilla Resurgence, aka Shin Godzilla, which no one who's heard of Hideki Anno will be surprised to learn is one of the strangest films ever made in the franchise, but also the highest grossing in Japan, the biggest live-action Japanese movie of 2016, and the winner of Japan's equivalent of the Best Picture Oscar that same year. Anno's Godzilla is an oceanic mutant of unknown origin who starts out as an almost comically ridiculous glob-like thing before becoming one of the creepiest versions ever, and its destructive actions are deliberately more evocative of the then-recent tsunami and Fukushima meltdown disasters than Hiroshima or the threat of nuclear war. Instead of a military parable, this time the grim political metaphor is all about the stunted state of Japanese bureaucracy, as entrenched would-be leaders protecting their own positions are powerless to respond efficiently to the threat and all too willing to let unfeeling foreign powers take callous overreaction, and it's up to lower-level workers and professionals with creative infrastructure solutions to solve the problem. This one is really good, guys. So, yeah, Godzilla. Always about stuff, but didn't always used to mean it couldn't be tons of fun. I'm Bob, and that's the Big Lizard.